The seventh speaker is Miss Haruka Terada, representing Tsuda University. The title of her speech is Break the Wall. Break the Wall. Would you now welcome Miss Terada?
Thank you, the Master of Ceremonies, honorable judges, and all the organizers. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Oops! Ouch! I hurt my arm. Suppose your friend fell and got injured seriously. What would you do for her? Probably most of you hand her a bandage or ask her whether she needs some help or not. Nobody would ignore her at least, right? However, my wound and I had been ignored for a long time. I had been hurt deeply and felt isolated by a huge surrounding wall. What was I suffering from? That is bipolar disorder. In Japanese, Sokyokisei Shokai. Bipolar disorder is a mental illness which causes extreme mood swings that include some emotional highs, a mania, and emotional lows, depression. These mood swings occur not only throughout the year, but also during the day, and it is painful for the patient. However, through my experience, I realized that the patients are suffering not only from its symptoms, but also from the wall, some biases against bipolar disorder in our society. So today, I'm standing here to remove the social biases against bipolar disorder. After my speech, I hope that a wall-broken society where the patients can call for help easily and never be hurt will be created. So, let me reveal the existence of the wall in our society first. According to a survey conducted by Otsuka Pharmaceutical Company, about 78% of bipolar disorder patients answered that they had been treated as lazy or moody persons by the neighbors. Also, they said that they had been hurt deeply by such treatments. Yes, this means that the patients are suffering from dysregulation. In other words, we truly have a huge wall in our society. It is too intolerant for the patients, isn't it? This wall pushes the patients to much serious situations. For example, they may face some difficulties in rehabilitation, have recurrences, and kill themselves in the worst case. Let me share my experiences. When I was in high school, I couldn't go to school every day because of bipolar disorder. Then, one of my friends told me, "Hey Haruka, why are you skipping school so much? You're so lazy, moody, and abnormal." By listening to these words, I thought that there's no one for me to consult with and no place for me to be in. Then I faced difficulties in returning to school and overcoming the illness. Also, I was about to kill myself many times. Actually, the suicide risk of bipolar disorder is higher than other mental illnesses, so more attention must be paid to the patients. Yes, we must avoid hurting them with our small discrimination. Then, why do we have that wall? The biases against bipolar disorder. It is because we don't have much correct knowledge about it. Here in Japan, mental health education was abolished in the 1980s, so many of us haven't learned about bipolar disorder in our schools. Also, bipolar disorder has fewer patients than other mental illnesses, so it is less well known. Therefore, since we don't have any information about bipolar disorder, we tend to regard all the people who have extreme mood swings as lazy or moody people. Finally, we start treating them as troublesome. Some of you may think, Oh, is the number of the patients small? Then I have nothing to do with the problem. However, unfortunately, no one can say definitely. Mr. Naruto Kawakami in the University of Tokyo announced that 1 out of 100 people may have bipolar disorder in their entire life. This is the same as the number of foreign people in Japan or pregnant women in Japan. That is so many, right? As you can see, everyone may experience this illness of future, so it is important for us to break the wall. So, everyone, please compare yourself before listening to this speech and now. Don't you feel that bipolar disorder is familiar to us? Yes, exactly. This is the very first step to break the wall. Regarding bipolar disorder as a familiar thing and changing its image from uncommon to common. Then, after this first step, let's have correct knowledge about bipolar disorder and remove the prejudice such as laziness or moodiness as a second step. To do this, I recommend that you check an intelligible website called Smile Navigator, set by Otsuka Pharmaceutical Company. On this site, please check 2 things: the basic symptoms of bipolar disorder and the way to support the patients. Then, after those 2 steps, try to show your acceptable attitude to your neighbors. For example, for people who have extreme mood swings, tell them, "Is there something wrong with you?" instead of saying, "You're lazy and moody." For people who confess to you that they have bipolar disorder, ask them if they want some support instead of treating them as troublesome. Some of you may think that those actions are not enough for the patient, but don't worry about that. According to a survey mentioned before, about 89% of bipolar disorder patients said that they feel relieved when their neighbors learn about bipolar disorder and are kind to them. Yes, just learning about the illness and giving them some hands will be the best way to support them. And by taking some small actions, they will be truly saved. I was one of the patients who had been saved by the understanding of my neighbor. It was a time after I delivered the speech in front of my ESS members. Then, one of my peers told me, "To be honest, I had some negative image against bipolar disorder in the past, but I have definitely changed my image against it by listening to your speech and checking Smile Navigator." Yes, this is what the patients are looking for, and this is why I'm delivering this speech. If you change your mind and attitude and break the wall against bipolar disorder, someone you love may be saved in the future, just like me. Bipolar disorder, is it an uncommon thing? No. Is it laziness? No. Is it a moodiness? No, not at all. From now, what you should do is to have the correct knowledge about bipolar disorder and show your acceptable attitude to your neighbors. Let's break the wall and create the new world together. Thank you.
We will have a question and answer period. Mr. Tanaka, please.
Thank you for your speech. And a quick question. Regarding the Smile Navigator, how did you find it?
Oh, thank you for your question. I found this because my exclusive doctor in a mental hospital had introduced to me.
I see. Thank you. And the next question is a little bit long, but please bear with me. You suggest that for people who have extreme mood swings, tell them, "Is there something wrong with you?" But with regard to the reactions to it, I have come up with 3 patterns. So I would like to know how we should respond to each case. So the first pattern, I suppose, there's a pattern that the person himself or herself is not aware that he or she is bipolar. So,
In that case, okay, thank you for your question. I suggest to say him or her that if the person seems to be so that seem to have an extreme mood swings and hasn't realized it, I want you to suggest them to go to the hospital because this is the only treatment the patients can have.
Okay, thank you very much. And the second pattern, there's a case where the person is aware that he or she has bipolar disorder, but does not want it to be known to others.
Okay, thank you for your question. I think that all the patients don't have to confess to their neighbors about their illness. So first, I think it's not good to ask for many times. So if the patient seems to hide or not to confess to, please let them be. But in that case, I think that not saying you're lazy or moody is very important. So yes, I think this is the most important thing, not everything.
And we can also perhaps recommend to see the Smile Navigator site to them.
Yes.
Okay, the last button. So we cannot deny the possibility of the person just being lazy. So how should we react?
Okay, thank you for your question. In such case, I recommend that you ask 3 questions. The first one is whether they are able to eat enough. The second one is whether they are able to sleep enough. And the third one is whether they are able to enjoy their hobbies enough. Because bipolar disorder in the term of depression, the patients tend to have lack of appetite, loss of sleep, loss of interest in their hobbies. And also in the term of mania, they tend to have increasing appetite, or they tend to sleep less. So yes, to distinguish that, I recommend that you check those sides of symptoms.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for your detailed explanation. It should be the last one, but let's get back to the Smile Navigator. Smile Navigator is operated by a private company, but don't you think non-private but public organization too should provide correct information about mental health issues?
Yes, I think it's very important. Do you mean that government or like that?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, as I said, mental health education was abolished in 1980, but it has started again from this year in high schools. But I think still this is not enough. So I want the government to introduce the mental health education to the elementary, junior high, and high school in Japan. And this is because most of not only bipolar disorder, but also most of the mental illness are likely to...
Sorry, Kanasta.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Tanaka.